Hi everyone, welcome to Things Lucy Reads. I'm Luce and this is a book haul. Haven't done one of these in a while. So these are all the books that I bought in physical form in the months of January and February. There aren't very many of them because I haven't had a lot of money, but I thought that it would be fun to do one of these anyway. So first up, I have an order from Bin Chicken Books, which is an online secondhand bookshop based out of Brisbane, run by a very lovely woman called Sophia, who posts a lot of really interesting things, not only about the products in the store, but about just really fascinating things and like really insightful book reviews. And I highly recommend following along with the books, with the Instagram account. Even if you don't necessarily buy anything from the shop, it's a really good account to follow. So I will link that down below, and obviously I will also link the shop as well. So I placed an order for 2 books at the beginning of the year, and the first one that I got is Grief is the Thing with Feathers by Max Porter. This order was placed while Sophia herself was away on holiday in Egypt, and so the shop was functionally shut down for like part of December and then January and part of February, but there was like 2 mail days in January, February, so that if you had placed an order, they would go out on that day. So that's when I placed this order, and then the shop was being run by someone else in that time. And because I ordered this book, I got a really lovely note from the person packing the orders about this book specifically, which I really appreciated, and I thought that was lovely, and hopefully I really like this book. I have been thinking about reading this since 2016, which is not long after it came out, I think. So this was published in 2015. It was a bit of a, I won't say hyped, but a lot of people were reading it in that time. And then my grandfather died in 2016, in September it was, that's right, he died on Father's Day of that year. And in the lead up to his death and immediately afterwards, I was thinking about this book a lot and thinking about picking it up and reading it because I thought that it might be helpful, might be a little bit cathartic, but I never got around to doing it. But I finally have a copy now, so I will be reading it, and hopefully it'll still be a little bit cathartic even, what are we, coming up to 6 years later, but we'll see. The next book I picked up in that order is There's No Such Thing as an Easy Job by Kikuko Sumura. I don't actually really know what this book is about. A woman walks into an employment agency and requests a job that requires no reading, no writing, and ideally very little thinking. Probably quickly discovers that there's no such thing. This is a pretty hefty book, which I wasn't expecting, but I'm just very interested in modern Japanese literature. I read Convenience Store Woman and I just absolutely loved it, and every other book that I've kind of come across since reading that's been Japanese and like written recently, I've been really interested in reading. So hopefully I like this. I think this might be a travel read for the trip that I go on at the end of April for my sister's wedding, because I like to read on the train and I find it really conducive to reading. Something about the white noise and the motion. I just could sit down and read a whole book in an amount of time I couldn't achieve not on the train. So maybe I'll take it with me then. But yeah, I'm just really keen for it and I just want to know where it takes me. And then the next order I made, this was some kind of sale, but I can't remember what it was for. Valentine's Day maybe? Anyway, so this is from Amplify Bookstore, which is another Australian online bookstore, and it is specifically for BIPOC writers. It's run by 2 women of colour, and again the Instagram account is a really valuable follow and posts a lot of really great informative things like reviews and just things. Again, I'll link it down below. I'll link the shop down below. The books that I picked up are How Decent People Behave by Maxine Benebit Clark. So Maxine is a Black Australian writer, but Black as in Afro-Caribbean, not Black as in Indigenous. I have her, I think it's a memoir called The Hate Race, which I've been meaning to read for a long time but haven't got around to it. This is a poetry collection specifically relating to modern events. So let me just read you the back. It says, on a daylight street in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a black man is asphyxiated by callous knee of an officer, by cruel might of state, and under crushing weight of colony. In Melbourne, the body of another woman has been found, this time after catching a late tram home. The Atlantic has run out of the English alphabet when christening hurricanes this season. The earth is on fire from the redwoods of California to Australia's east coast. The sea draws back and tsunamis lash out in Samoa and Sumatra. Water rises in Sulawesi and Nagasaki. Bloated cod are surfacing all along the Murray-Darling. The virus arrives and the virus thrives. Authorities seal the public housing towers up and truck in 1 cop to every 5 residents. Notre Dame is ablaze, the cathedral spire blackened and teetering. Out in Biloela, the deportation vans have arrived. Every Friday, in cities all across the world, children are walking out of school. The wolves are circling. The wolves are circling. These poems speak of the world that is and sing for a world that may one day be. And that blurb on the back is actually taken, like, it's a whole poem of its own, if I remember correctly. I've started reading a couple of poems in this and they're just so relevant and I've just been really thoroughly enjoying them so far. Hopefully I can finish this off in March. And then the next book that I got in that order is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. I have been aware of this book for a really long time, but haven't really been interested in reading it. And then last year, I think it was, Tiernan the booktuber read it and he just made it sound really interesting and it was on sale. So I thought that I would pick it up and I think it might be something that I just really enjoy, but we'll find out. I don't know very much about it and I'm not going to read you the back because I think that it's probably better to go into this one specifically, not knowing very much. And then the last book that I picked up in that order is You Exist Too Much by Zaina Arafat. This is, I don't know if it's a memoir or a novel, but it's about a Palestinian American queer girl as she navigates just life. I'm really excited to read this one. Hopefully I get to it this year. And then the next 2 books are an order from The Little Book Room, which is another Australian bookshop. There's a shop front in Melbourne. There is also a online store. I bought Animal Crossing New Horizons Desert Island Diary Volume 1, which is just a really cute little comic about 4 people who live in the game of Animal Crossing and do all the things that you do in the game of Animal Crossing, and they just do really weird and zany things, basically whatever they want, and annoy Tom Nook along the way, which is what we all do. And it was just really, really funny. Basically an extended meme. It didn't take itself too seriously, didn't take the game very seriously, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I talk about it more in my last wrap up, which I'll link up here. It was just really fun. And then I also picked up Hometown Haunts, which is a Love Oswaye anthology of horror tales. I don't really read a lot of horror and I don't go in for it very much, but my very good friend Alison Evans has a story in this collection. Very excited to read this. I have several other Australian anthologies which I haven't read and I probably should get around to doing that, but I'll probably read this sometime in the next 3 months because it is autumn in Australia. We're coming up to Samhain, which will be in April probably. It's spooky season in Australia. I'll probably read this sometime during it and I'm very excited. And I just love Alison as a person and also as an author, so very excited to read their story at least. And then the next book that I picked up I bought from someone on Facebook and it is The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin, and this is the hardcover with the pattern underneath and it is just absolutely gorgeous. Again, it's spooky season, so maybe I will read this during autumn and maybe I'll put it off for 3 years, who knows. I'm not sure if all of the hardcovers are printed like this or if only the first print run was printed like this, but I think maybe it was only the first print run. So I was very excited when someone was selling it and they specifically had a photo of the underneath and I could see that it was patterned, so very excited to get to this one too. It might be queer, but I don't know for sure, so don't quote me on that. I also know absolutely nothing about the plot, but I don't need to because it's pretty. That's how these things work, right? And then the last 2 books that I have to show you for this haul are from The Little Book Room again. I forgot that I had special ordered this book and then I got an email saying that it had arrived and I was like, well, I can't just order 1 book, I have to order 2. We'll get to the second one in a minute. So this is Anna on the Edge by AJ Sass. This is a middle grade novel with a non-binary protagonist and it is an Own Voices book. I've heard nothing but incredible things. This came out last year, I think, in hardcover, and then it's just been the paperback release. It's very chunky for a middle grade book, much thicker than I expected it to be. But I'm very, very excited to read this. And then the second book that I made in that order is The Yield by Tara June Winch. And Tara June Winch is an Aboriginal Australian author. I've been hearing about her works for years now, but I've never picked one up before now, but I just felt like it was the right time. and the vibes were right. And I started with this one because this was the one that Little Book Room had in stock. I'll read you the back for this one too. So it says, knowing that he will soon die, Albert Poppy Goondiwindi takes pen to paper. His life has been spent on the banks of the Murrumbidgee River at Prosperous House on Massacre Plains. Albert is determined to pass on the language of his people and everything that was ever remembered. He finds the words on the wind. August Goondiwindi has been living on the other side of the world for 10 years when she learns of her grandfather's death. She returns home for his burial, racked with grief and burdened with all she tried to leave behind. Her homecoming is bittersweet as she confronts the love of her kin and news that Prosperous is to be repossessed by a mining company. Determined to make amends, which she endeavours to save their land, a quest that leads her to the voice of her grandfather and into the past, the stories of her people, the secrets of the river. It just sounds incredible. Very excited to read it, and then very excited to read everything else that Tara June Winch has ever written. So, let me do the thing. Wait, no, I can't do it. I can't. Ooh. Oh, one of these is the wrong way around, but whatever. Here are all the books I've bought in the months of January and February. If you have read any of these, feel free to let me know what you thought of them down below. If you just want to let me know that you were here, leave me the book stack emoji, and I will know that you watched to the end. Otherwise, that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye for now.